Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, that takes you deep into the fascinating world of coins that might be hiding right under your nose. Whether you're a seasoned collector, a curious beginner, or just someone with a jar of old pennies collecting dust, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Because today, we're diving into the story of a tiny copper coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but it holds a surprising secret. A coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets during the early 1940s, a time of World War, shifting economies, and American resilience. We're talking about the one and only Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1941, with a mint mark that can change everything. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, right? But what if I told you that this humble little coin, born in the year Franklin D. Roosevelt was leading the nation through a world at war, could be worth more than a brand new luxury car? Or even more than a year's salary for many hard-working people? Let's start by taking a step back, way back to 1941. The United States was just on the edge of entering World War II. Life was different then. Gas cost around 12 cents a gallon. A loaf of bread? About a dime. And tucked away in lunchboxes, cash registers, and trouser pockets across the country were these copper-colored coins with the proud profile of Abraham Lincoln on one side and two stalks of wheat on the other. This design, the Lincoln wheat penny, was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. It was revolutionary at the time. Not only was it the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, but the design itself became iconic. On one side, the strong and steady face of President Lincoln. On the other, the simple but symbolic wheat stalks, representing prosperity, growth, and a nation pushing forward. Fast forward to 1941. The Lincoln penny was still going strong. That year, the U.S. Mint produced the coin at 3 different locations: Philadelphia, which had no mint mark, Denver, marked with a D, and San Francisco, marked with an S. All 3 versions made it into circulation, and for most people, they were just part of everyday life. Something to buy a stick of gum or toss into a fountain for a wish. But here's where things get exciting: not all pennies are created equal. You see, while most 1941 pennies were mass-produced and heavily circulated, a small number were struck with exceptional quality, rare characteristics, or even mysterious minting errors that today make them incredibly valuable to collectors around the world. Imagine holding a 1941 penny in your hand and realizing it might be one of the rarest and most sought-after variations ever made. That's the kind of thrill coin collectors live for, and it's why coins like the 1941 wheat penny with a mint mark can command mind-blowing prices at auction, especially when they meet certain conditions. Let's talk details. The average 1941 Lincoln wheat penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. It's a small coin, sure, but small doesn't mean insignificant. In fact, in the world of numismatics, the tiniest detail can make a massive difference. Now, if you flip the coin over and see a D or an S under the year 1941, pay close attention. These mint marks tell us where the coin was made. Coins from Denver and San Francisco often had lower mintages or experienced striking anomalies that make them more valuable today. So what are collectors looking for? What turns a 1941 penny from pocket change into a prized possession? First, it's all about condition. Coins that have never been used in circulation and are classified as uncirculated or mint state are worth far more than their worn-out cousins. These are the coins that somehow survived the war, the decades, and the hands of time without getting scratched, bent, or dulled. They're crisp. They're clean. They're almost perfect. Then there are the error coins, the beautiful mistakes. Coins that were struck off-center. Coins with doubled images. Coins with unusual textures or planchet flaws. Each error is like a fingerprint, unique, rare, and incredibly attractive to collectors who crave something different from the ordinary. But perhaps the most exciting finds are those that combine both rarity and perfection. Imagine discovering a 1941 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, in pristine uncirculated condition, and with an ultra-rare error. That's the holy grail. These kinds of coins don't just catch the attention of hobbyists. They become legends. They make headlines. They appear in museums, private collections, and yes, even high-stakes auctions where the bidding wars are fierce and the final prices are jaw-dropping. And here's the best part, these coins aren't just hiding in safes and display cases. They could be sitting in your attic, in your childhood coin jar, in the back of your sock drawer. That's why so many collectors are obsessed with hunting them down, because the treasure is real, and it's still out there. Now, let's bring this all together. You might have a handful of old pennies lying around and think nothing of them. But if you've got a 1941 Lincoln wheat penny, especially one with a visible D or S mint mark, hold on to it. Look closely. Examine the condition. Check for any unusual markings or signs of minting errors. Because you might just be holding a miniature fortune in the palm of your hand. You've waited patiently, and now it's time for the big reveal. How much could one of these coins be worth? Get ready for this. A 1941 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, preserved in nearly flawless mint state, and featuring a rare error, has been valued by expert collectors and auction houses at up to $95,000. Yes, you heard that right. $95,000 for a coin that many people wouldn't even bother to bend down and pick up from the sidewalk. Today, we're focusing on a coin that seems small but carries with it a massive story. A story of history, resilience, and value that goes far beyond its copper shell. We're talking about the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny, with a mint mark that could make all the difference. Now don't be fooled by its size. This little coin is packed with intrigue and potential. And if you have one, or happen to come across one, it might be a whole lot more than just pocket change. Let's travel back in time for a moment. The year is 1945. The world is changing. World War II is coming to an end. America is on the verge of victory, and with it, a new era of hope, innovation, and transformation is beginning. Families are reuniting, factories are shifting from war machines to peacetime production, and the American spirit is stronger than ever. And what's in almost every American's pocket during this historic year? The Lincoln wheat penny. It may seem like just another coin, but it was more than that. It was a quiet witness to a country at war, and a symbol of the strength and determination that defined a generation. These pennies were spent on chocolate bars, used to write letters to soldiers, and dropped into jukeboxes playing big band swing and early rhythm and blues. But out of the millions and millions of 1945 pennies that were struck and released into circulation, a rare few have survived in spectacular condition, or with mysterious errors that collectors dream about. The Lincoln wheat penny, for those unfamiliar, was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It replaced the Indian head cent and marked the first time a real historical figure appeared on a U.S. coin. The obverse featured Lincoln's stoic portrait, while the reverse proudly displayed two wheat ears framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America. By 1945, this design was well known, and people had grown attached to it. But not all pennies are created equal. What makes the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny so exciting for collectors isn't just its age, it's what might be hidden in plain sight. That brings us to the mint marks. During 1945, pennies were struck at 3 locations across the United States: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins had no mint mark. The Denver pennies bore a tiny D under the date. And the San Francisco coins carried an S. Now here's where the hunt begins. While many 1945 pennies are still common today, certain variations, especially those with mint marks, can be worth far more than you'd ever expect. So what exactly should you be looking for? First, condition is king. Coins that have been well circulated, meaning they've been through hundreds or even thousands of hands, typically show a lot of wear. But occasionally, a 1945 penny will surface that looks as though it was minted yesterday. These are known as mint state or uncirculated coins. They shine. They gleam. Their details are crisp and untouched by time. Collectors go wild for coins like this, especially from older years like 1945. Because the truth is, almost all of those pennies were used. So when a pristine one appears, it's like finding a time capsule, a perfect memory from a world long past. Second, you'll want to check for errors. That's right, mistakes can make coins far more valuable. These aren't flaws in the traditional sense. They're minting errors. Small accidents that happen during the striking process. And rather than ruining the coin, they make it rare. One of a kind. Highly collectible. We're talking about things like double die errors, where the design appears to be stamped twice. Off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned. Repunched mint marks, where the tiny D or S appears to have been stamped more than once. Even the wrong planchet, when a coin is mistakenly struck on a metal blank meant for a different coin altogether. Each of these errors transforms an ordinary coin into a treasure worth hunting for, but let's not stop there. Some 1945 pennies with a mint mark have a history of extremely limited surviving numbers in pristine condition. It's like trying to find a flawless gem in a mountain of gravel. Most 1945 coins were made for everyday use. They were never intended to last forever. So the fact that any have survived in such high quality is part of what makes them so desirable, and so valuable. Now here's the twist. Even if you think your coin looks a little worn, don't dismiss it too quickly. Some errors are subtle and need a magnifying glass or microscope to detect. Others are known only to seasoned experts who know exactly what to look for. So what should you do if you think you've got one? First, take a close look at the date and mint mark. Is it a Denver D? A San Francisco S? Or no mint mark at all? All three are collectible, but certain combinations are especially rare. Then, inspect the coin's surfaces. Is there sharp detail in Lincoln's hair and the wheat ears? Are there any doubling effects, unusual shapes, or lettering anomalies? And once you've done your first round of detective work, consider showing it to a professional. Reputable coin dealers, numismatic experts, and grading services can tell you exactly what you have, and just how rare it might be, because, believe it or not, every year new discoveries are being made. A previously unknown error. A new grading record. A new auction high. The world of coins is constantly evolving, and that means the next big discovery could be yours. Imagine the thrill of realizing that an old penny you've had for years is actually a rare piece of history. A coin struck during the final year of one of the most intense conflicts in human history. A coin that saw the end of a world war and the beginning of a new American chapter. And imagine that this small, copper coin could be worth more than your car. More than your vacation. Maybe even more than your annual salary. You've waited long enough. It's time for the value reveal. If you're lucky enough to have a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, in exceptional mint state condition, or better yet, with a known error or variation, it could be worth as much as $90,000. That's right. $90,000 for a coin that's just over 19 millimeters across and weighs barely more than a paperclip. So check those old penny jars. Ask your grandparents. Dig through that forgotten box of change. Because treasures are out there, and sometimes, they come in the smallest, most unexpected forms. Today, we're diving into a story that's not just about copper and cents, but about hidden treasure, lost history, and a surprising little coin that could be worth far more than anyone ever imagined. So, get comfortable, grab that old coffee can full of change you've been meaning to sort, and lean in, because we're going back to the year 1939. A time of transformation, mystery, and, yes, one very special penny. Imagine America in 1939. The country is slowly pulling itself out of the Great Depression. Franklin D. Roosevelt is president, leading the nation with bold reforms and a message of hope. There's talk of war overseas, but at home, innovation is booming. The New York World's Fair is in full swing, dazzling visitors with visions of the future. Superman just debuted in comic books. The Wizard of Oz hits theaters and captures imaginations. Life is changing fast, and in the pockets of Americans, helping them buy coffee, newspapers, and bus rides, was a small copper coin, the Lincoln wheat penny. Now, let's talk about this humble yet legendary coin, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln wheat penny was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Its design is iconic. On the front, you have Lincoln's profile, strong and dignified. On the back, two sheaves of wheat, one on each side, with 1 cent bold and proud in the center. Below it, United States of America. And just above, E pluribus unum, out of many, one dot. But here's where things get exciting. The year 1939 might not sound flashy at first, but when it comes to coin collecting, it holds a few fascinating surprises. And if you know what to look for, this 1 cent piece could be worth far more than you ever expected. Let's break it down. In 1939, the Lincoln wheat penny was struck at 3 different U.S. mint locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia mint coins have no mint mark. The Denver coins have a small D under the date, and the San Francisco coins have an S. Now, while millions of these coins were produced, not all of them were created equally. Most were used, spent, and worn down. People didn't see them as collectible. They were just pennies. Tossed into cash registers. Dropped into piggy banks. Forgotten in drawers. But here's the truth: rarity isn't just about how many were made. It's about how many survived in great condition. And for the 1939 penny, especially the ones with a mint mark, those few that managed to remain untouched, uncirculated, and near perfect, those are the coins collectors dream about. So what makes a 1939 penny stand out? Let's talk condition first. In the world of coin grading, a coin's value increases dramatically based on its condition. A well-worn 1939 penny may only be worth a few cents. But a coin that was never circulated, that still has its original luster, sharp edges, and pristine detail? That's a whole different story. Then come the rarities and errors, the twists of fate that turn an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. We're talking about double die errors, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and coins struck on the wrong metal blanks. These are the quirks that occur during the minting process, and they are incredibly valuable to collectors. Even a subtle doubling of the date or letters can launch the value of a penny sky high. It's like finding a rare misprint on a vintage baseball card. These errors are real. They are scarce. And they are highly sought after. Now, here's something else you should know: not all mint marks are equally common. The 1939 penny with the S mint mark from San Francisco is especially interesting. While not the rarest Lincoln cent by mintage, high-grade examples from the San Francisco mint are harder to find. Most of these coins were used and worn. Very few were saved in uncirculated condition. And that makes surviving examples in mint state extremely valuable. It's not just a piece of currency. It's a piece of history. A snapshot of 1939 America. A coin that has passed through generations, holding stories we'll never fully know. So imagine this for a moment: you're digging through your childhood coin collection, or maybe sorting through your grandparents' attic, and suddenly, you spot it. That familiar face of Lincoln. The date, 1939. And just beneath it, a tiny D, or an S. Could it be? You look closer. The edges are sharp. The fields are clean. The design is crisp. It's not like the other worn pennies you've seen before. This is where the journey begins, because if you've got a 1939 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, and it's in mint state condition, you may be holding something extremely rare. And if you spot something odd about the coin, some doubling in the text, or the outline of a repunched mark, don't ignore it. You might have one of the rare error variants that push values into the stratosphere. Collectors aren't just looking for these coins. They're competing for them. Auction houses across the world have seen fierce bidding wars over coins just like this. The difference between a regular 1939 penny and a rare variant in top condition? Tens of thousands of dollars. And here's the thing: these coins are still out there. They're hiding in old cigar boxes, sock drawers, and forgotten coffee tins. You don't have to be a millionaire to find one. All it takes is curiosity, a keen eye, and a little knowledge, like what you're learning right here. So how do you know what you have? Start by checking the mint mark. Is it a plain 1939? That's from Philadelphia. Is there a small D? That's from Denver. An S? San Francisco. Next, look at the condition. If it still shines, if the details are sharp, you may have something special. If you really think you have a gem, get it professionally graded. Third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC can confirm the quality and authenticity of your coin, and that's crucial if you're thinking about selling or insuring it. Alright, you've waited long enough. So what is the top value for a 1939 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, preserved in stunning, uncirculated, mint state condition, and potentially showing rare error features? This might blow your mind. That tiny penny, weighing just over 3 grams and made of copper, could be worth as much as $80,000. Yes, you heard that right. $80,000 for a single penny from 1939. Today, we're going on a journey back in time to uncover the true story behind one of the most underestimated little coins in your change jar. Yes, we're talking about the United States 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny, from the year 1952. At first glance, it might look like every other penny. You've probably held hundreds, maybe even thousands of them in your lifetime without giving it a second thought. But what if I told you that buried in the millions of 1952 pennies out there, a few rare ones exist that could turn your spare change into something life-changing? That's no exaggeration, because one special 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, in the right condition, with the right mint mark and the right anomaly, could be worth an amount of money that'll leave you speechless. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we get to the value, the rarity, and how to identify these hidden gems, let's take a trip back to the early 1950s. America in 1952 was a nation in motion. The Second World War was over, and the country was stepping confidently into a new era. Dwight D. Eisenhower was elected president, television was becoming a household staple, and rock and roll was just beginning to echo through radios and jukeboxes. It was a time of optimism, innovation, and transformation, and right there in everyone's pocket, purse, and piggy bank was a coin that felt familiar, dependable even. The Lincoln wheat penny, first minted in 1909, the Lincoln wheat penny was America's way of honoring the 100th birthday of one of its greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln. For decades, the coin stood as a symbol of strength and national pride. The front, known as the obverse, features Lincoln's dignified portrait. The reverse shows 2 stylized wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. Simple, clean, timeless, but in 1952, something interesting happened, not with the design, which remained unchanged, but with the coins themselves. The U.S. Mint struck Lincoln wheat pennies in 3 locations that year: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint issued coins with no mint mark. Denver used a small D below the date, and San Francisco used an S. Most of these coins were created to be used and spent daily. Nobody thought they would become collectible someday, but time has a funny way of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Today, the majority of 1952 pennies are common. You can still find them at coin shops or even in random rolls of pennies from the bank. They're usually scratched, tarnished, and worn. But every once in a while, a rare specimen shows up that makes even the most seasoned collectors pause in amazement. So what makes a 1952 wheat penny so special? It all comes down to 3 things: mint mark, condition, and errors. Let's start with the mint mark. While all mint marks can carry value, certain combinations are rarer than others. The Denver D and San Francisco S mint marks are especially important for 1952, particularly when paired with specific varieties or misprints. Next, let's talk about condition. In coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1952 wheat penny that's been passed through 1,000 hands and tossed in a dozen junk drawers isn't going to raise eyebrows. But a coin that was never circulated, one that looks exactly like it did the day it was struck, now that's special. These are called mint state coins, and they're graded on a 70-point scale, with MS 60 to MS 70 being the top grades, and trust me, finding a 1952 penny in MS 65 or above? That's not easy. Most were used up, spent, and worn down by daily life. A pristine survivor is rare. Then come the errors. Now this is where things get really exciting. some 1952 Lincoln pennies were struck with unusual and unintended features during the minting process. These can include double die errors, where part of the design appears twice in a slightly offset position, off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned on the coin, and repunched mint marks, where the mint letter was punched more than once, causing a noticeable doubling effect. Each of these errors is a tiny accident, but to collectors, they're golden. Because error coins are unique. No two are exactly alike. And that kind of scarcity is the key to huge value in the world of numismatics. Let's not forget about planchet errors, where the coin was struck on the wrong metal blank. Or die cracks, where a line or groove appears due to a cracked minting die. Even a small imperfection can send a coin's value soaring if the demand is high enough. So how do you know if your 1952 penny is valuable? Start by looking at the mint mark under the date. If it's a D or an S, you're off to a good start. Then examine the coin under a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for doubling in the letters or numbers. Look for signs of repunching or off-center details. And most importantly, check the coin's condition. If it has strong luster, no visible wear, and sharp details, you might have a mint state treasure, and don't be discouraged if your coin has minor flaws. Sometimes those flaws are exactly what collectors want. Once you suspect you have a rare variety or high-grade coin, your next step is to get it authenticated and graded by a trusted third-party grading service like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. These experts will confirm the condition, identify any errors, and assign a grade that will help determine its market value. But here's the part you've been waiting for: what is a 1952 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, in pristine uncirculated condition, and possibly featuring a rare error, really worth? Get ready. Because the numbers will blow you away. That small copper coin, once worth just a single cent, could now be valued by collectors and investors at up to $89,000. Yes. You heard that right. $89,000. All for a coin that might be sitting in an old jar, a dusty drawer, or a forgotten coin album. Today's video is going to leave you stunned that we're about to dig deep into the story of one of the most overlooked yet fascinating coins in American history. It's small, round, and copper-colored. You've probably held one in your hand dozens of times. But this one is different. We're talking about the 1949 Lincoln wheat penny, not just any penny. Not just a piece of change. This coin is part of a bigger story, a story of America recovering after World War II, a story of craftsmanship, mystery, and hidden value. And believe me when I say, what's tucked into the details of this coin could make it one of the most valuable pennies in your entire collection. Let's travel back to the year 1949. The world had just emerged from the shadows of World War II. The United States was entering an era of booming prosperity, rebuilding its industries, and stepping confidently into its role as a global leader. Soldiers had come home, families were being reunited, and a wave of innovation was sweeping across the country. At the same time, in the world of coins, the U.S. Mint was hard at work, producing millions of pennies to keep up with a growing post-war economy. These coins were used in everyday life, to buy candy, newspapers, movie tickets, and soda from corner shops. And among those millions was the 1949 Lincoln wheat penny. Now, let's pause for a second. On the surface, the 1949 penny doesn't look unusual. It has Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, just like every other wheat penny minted from 1909 to 1958. And on the back, you'll see the classic wheat ears that give this series its name, curving around the bold letters, 1 cent and United States of America. But as every true collector knows, it's never just about what's obvious. It's about the details, the mint mark, the condition, and the possibility of rare errors that can turn a 1-cent coin into a priceless relic. Let's start with the mint marks. In 1949, Lincoln wheat pennies were struck at 3 major mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia carry no mint mark, just the date. Coins from Denver show a tiny D under the date. And coins from San Francisco show a small S. Now here's where it gets really interesting. While all 1949 wheat pennies share the same basic design, not all were created equal. Each mint had its own quirks, and over the years, collectors have discovered rare variations and anomalies in these coins that make them incredibly valuable. One of the most important factors in determining the value of a 1949 penny is its condition. Most of these coins were heavily circulated, they passed through thousands of hands, collected scratches, dents, and wear. But a few, a very rare few, survived in nearly perfect condition. These coins are known as mint state coins, or uncirculated coins, and they're the cream of the crop. Their surfaces are crisp. Their details are razor sharp. They reflect light like they were minted yesterday. And they are unbelievably rare. Then there's the world of errors and varieties. This is where things go from ordinary to extraordinary. Some 1949 wheat pennies show what's called a double die error. This happens when the coin is struck twice by the die, creating a subtle but visible doubling of the letters or numbers. These errors can occur on either side of the coin, sometimes in the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even in Lincoln's eye or coat details. Another type of error collectors search for is the repunched mint mark. That's when the small d or s under the date was punched more than once at slightly different angles. Under magnification, it looks like a shadow or ghost of the letter, and that tiny mistake can make a big difference in value. And then you have off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet errors, and even coins that were accidentally struck on blanks meant for foreign coins or other denominations. Each of these oddities turns a common penny into a rare collectible, sometimes a one-of-a-kind piece. So how do you know if your 1949 penny is special? Start by flipping it under a strong light. Use a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass. Look at the date and mint mark. Are there any signs of doubling or shadowing? Are the letters crisp and bold? Do you see any unusual lines or breaks in the metal? Next, consider the color and luster of the coin. If it still has that original red or reddish-brown shine, you might be looking at a high-grade uncirculated example. That's rare. Most coins have turned dull or dark with age and use. Now here's something that might surprise you. Even if your coin doesn't look perfect, it could still be worth examining closely. Some of the most valuable 1949 pennies ever discovered didn't look perfect at first glance, but they contained a small, rare feature that only sharp-eyed collectors caught, and once identified and professionally graded, boom! The value skyrockets, which brings us to the big question: what could a 1949 Lincoln wheat penny be worth today? Well, as with any collectible, value depends on several things: mint mark, grade, error type, and collector demand. Most 1949 pennies in circulated condition are worth a few cents, maybe a couple of dollars if they're nice, but the ones that combine rarity, pristine condition, and errors, those coins go into a whole different league. Auction records, private sales, and expert evaluations have shown that the rarest versions of the 1949 penny, especially with mint marks and error varieties, in top mint state condition, can command astonishing prices. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for: how much could one of these tiny, overlooked treasures, one simple 1949 Lincoln wheat penny, be worth, if it has the right combination of condition and error? Get ready, because a confirmed, professionally graded, mint state 1949 Lincoln wheat penny with a rare variety or error has sold for as much as $179,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $179,000, all for a coin that once sat in someone's change purse or rolled across a diner counter. So what are you waiting for? Go check your coin jar. Pull out those old albums. Call your grandparents and ask if they've got any weird old pennies lying around. Because your next big discovery could be sitting right under your nose, and it might just be that humble little wheat penny from 1949. If you enjoyed this deep dive into coin history and hidden treasures, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another incredible story. We've got more coin mysteries, rare finds, and collector secrets coming your way. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your curiosity sharp, and remember, sometimes, the smallest things hold the greatest value.